This is All Things Ansys, a podcast from the technical support staff at PADT. Episode 82, What is New with High-Frequency Electromagnetic Simulation at Ansys 2021 R1, and a review of Ansys Inc.'s fourth quarter and full year financial results. Greetings from Phoenix, Arizona on this fine Thursday, February 25th, 2021. I'm Eric Miller, one of the owners of PADT, and your host for this podcast. The new year is no longer so new. We hope those of you listening from the Southeast and especially Texas have recovered. That was a really devastating storm. As our regular listeners know, we have multiple employees across Texas and all the major cities there, and they all stayed safe, but it was rough for a couple of days. Many of them had no heat or power, and it can be a true disaster, especially with young kids or older in-laws and such that some of them were dealing with. But everybody's okay, and I hope that's true for you as well. I've said it before, the bad part of 2020 didn't really start till March or April, depends on when you started the clock. So that 12-month year of hell, we have a few more months of bad news, then let's hope it will be done for a while. I did get a question from a listener looking for more information about PADT and myself. The best place to go for PADT info is our website, www.padtinc.com, and for Ansys Things, our blog, www.padtinc.com/blog. For me, check out my LinkedIn. Search for Eric Miller, that's with a C, Eric with a C, and then PADT. You can find all sorts of mildly interesting information about me there, as well as an embarrassing interview that involved cocktails that I have a video of up on that LinkedIn page. So it makes me think that maybe I should do that for this podcast at some point when things open up. It's kind of an interesting idea. And speaking of doing things a little bit differently to mix it up, I was just invited this week to be a member of the new audio kind of discussion platform, Clubhouse, social media, whatever you want to call it. It's pretty cool. The way it works is I've got to host a couple of events, or a couple of rooms, they call them. And when I've done that, I can create a club. And so if you are on Clubhouse, we'll mention in the podcast as well, in the next episode, look for All Things Ansys Club. Or just look for Ansys. We'll probably be the only one there. And when we get enough people joining the club, I really would like to try a podcast from that platform where we can all talk. So it'd be kind of a cool thing to try out. All the cool kids are doing it. So just because we use Ansys for a living doesn't mean we can't try cool things. For today's episode, though, we're going to talk about high-frequency cool stuff, speaking of being the cool Ansys kids, and explain the whole chip-to-ship thing, which you'll hear about. We'll skip our normal topics and focus on taking a look at Ansys Inc.'s 2020 and Q4 financial results, which were just released yesterday on February 24th. So let's go ahead and get started and listen. Alex and I talking about these cool new features in 2020 R1 for high-frequency electromagnetics, including the new meshing awesomeness, which we're very excited about. It's beta in this release, but you'll hear more about why everybody thinks it's so cool. I want to welcome everybody today to our next interview for our podcast. I'm here with Alex Gafarov to talk a little bit more about what's new in HFSS. We're at 2021 R1. How's it going there, Alex?
Hi, Eric. Not too bad. Everything looks good.
Good. So I'm actually in the office for the first time in almost a year, just kind of making sure that everything is up and running in my office rather than home office. And so if we have any technical difficulties, it's my fault. I just wanted to make our listeners aware if things change. I'm kind of using toothpicks and duct tape to hold stuff together. So we'll see how it goes. A new release of HFSS, there's something really big that's in beta, and we'll get to that. But before we talk about the really big news, what else is exciting you about the new release?
Well, new release is always something happening every time. So it's getting always better and faster and more capable of doing things. So that's it's pretty normal for Ansys to deliver something.
Right.
There's some features we could talk about, but I just want to first kind of give the quick overview of the things which I think is the best in my perspective. So besides the features themselves, I do like to see that we are already pushing our limits with the time of simulation being reduced to really small. I mean, there's a comparison between different versions, and now we're actually looking at really good numbers. So, and the same thing with memory optimization. So this is the best part about any simulation tool, especially HFSS, because, well, we deliver the good technology with a lot of, lot of optimization, and we don't take too much time and we don't take too much resources. So that's the best. So.
Yeah. They're definitely been busy working on stuff. Any significant changes to the user interface, or is that all pretty much the same as it was?
I would say mostly it's everything the same. There are several things which could be. Well, there were some improvements which might be worth of noticing.
Good.
But mostly in a GUI side, there's pretty much everything is familiar to the user. So there's no curve to adjust. There's no extra workflows and everything. So there's few options you have now in meshing. There's several options and checkboxes you have in SBR Plus solution. So yeah, that's just minor. I wouldn't really say too many things about that.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and move on to really the prime thing to talk about, which is what Ansys is marketing quite a bit. Every presentation I've seen has talked about it, and it is a game changer in this idea of from chip to ship with some new meshing technology. So can you tell us a little bit about that and why everybody's so excited about it?
Yeah. I'm probably, I don't know, I'm definitely not the first one who's going to talk about this. Some listeners might already know about all the excitement about it. So we're talking about Mesh Fusion here as a new feature. Right now, it's a beta state. So which means it seems like we're moving to the right direction. I personally think that the reason why it's beta is only because we're trying to make sure we get enough data from the customers and from testing perspective to make sure we the option is actually functional, solid, and there's no any issues. So that's, I think, the only reason why we call it beta right now. Altogether, the reason why that option came to mind is to be able to actually just use multiple different meshing, I would call styles, I guess, meshing techniques, to be able to mesh complicated structures. So, for example, if you have the PCB board with components on it attached, maybe some sort of PCB, the flex PCB part of that connected as well. So, and used to be what you have to do in that case, you'll have to mesh separately different components, right? So and then you'll be able to put everything together and just kind of combine everything and get the right results. But so now it's simplified, meaning you don't have to just go manually component by component do those things. You can simply just kind of choose the Mesh Fusion as the option and click mesh, and that's supposed to be able to figure out what you have to, what mesh technique goes to which component and which object and everything. So yeah, that's the biggest improvements for multi-scale assembly designs, I would say.
So it's really a smart mesher. It looks at a object in the model and says, oh, I need to put a really refined mesh on you that's this size, or well, this looks like a big open empty airspace. I can go with nice big elements in here. That's the sort of thing it does.
Right. Yeah, if we call it smart mesh, I'll call it super smart mesh.
Super smart, yeah. Cool. And so how do you get to that? Some people may not know how to turn on the beta features.
Right. So what you have to do actually to go into the electronic desktop, and there's options in the tools. So you basically go there in general options, and then once you are in general options, well, for anyone who is writing this down, so you have to go there to options, and there'll be desktop configuration.
Okay.
Under the general tab, and the button is down below. Actually, really, the bottom of the window there. So once you click that button, then you can choose whatever beta feature you want to enable, and you can play with any, but the one which you're looking for, actually there's a couple good ones, but I would say the HFSS FEM Mesh Assembly, the one which you can turn on as well. So yeah, but that's basically what you have to do. You have to go to beta features and turn on those ones.
Very cool. Well, definitely encourage people to explore it and get to know it. And I'm sure it's going to improve and become add more functions as time goes by. But I think it's going to could change the way people, kind of the way CFD meshing has evolved over the years. I mean, it used to be, my model runs for a week, but it takes me 2 months to build my mesh. Now we're going to see the same sort of, hopefully, productivity gain on the meshing side for high frequency, which is pretty cool.
Right. And well, one thing to add, the best thing about this feature to be available, actually users still, if they're not really sure, if they're not really confident in this feature yet, they can always go back and manually do the same process they used to do. So there's nothing has been changed for the people who don't want to adapt yet, but I would definitely encourage everybody to try to at least, to see the difference. Because, for some engineers, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a drastic difference between the old way of doing things and this new feature.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the good thing about Ansys is they almost never take anything away, right? They just add. So that's important. We don't want to get stuck up a creek without a mesh, right? That's very cool. Anything else you want to share with the listeners that they should be aware of in this R1 for 2021?
Yeah. I mean, so besides this being the biggest thing, right?
Yes.
So a couple good improvements I can see so far. It's actually in the SBR plus, and that's the shooting balancing array method. So it's not necessarily, it's actually pretty narrow circle of people who usually use that. You have to have specific application for that. If you have just a regular antenna in your some PCB or something, then you might not need to have that kind of methods and to use. But SBR Plus itself has improvements, and so one of them is actually parametric antenna arrays. Okay. So that's a good feature too, because it allows to do some more complex scenarios. So definitely some more visualization improvements there. So that's kind of something interesting about SBR Plus. It's a narrow application, but there's improvements in that area.
Now, does that come with HFSS, or is that an add-on, or?
Yeah, it's tricky. It's technically comes with the if you're talking about licensing, so it comes with electronic enterprise. Okay. So premium HFSS will have only I call limited edition of that SBR Plus. So only because the full version of SBR Plus with the ADP, the Doppler, it comes with electronic enterprise.
Okay, cool. And this is the former Dell Cross Savant stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So incorporating it into HFSS and doing ray tracing to calculate these antenna capabilities, which is pretty freaking cool if you're doing antennas.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's good to know, because there may be people that aren't aware that that's available because it was a different product, right, in the past.
Yeah. Well, and that actually brings a good point. So you see what I do like about Ansys in this case, that every time they acquire some company or some tools and everything, so they're trying to incorporate it into the main HFSS flow and everything. So like SBR Plus, right? So it used to be separate tool, but now it's incorporated. It's actually kind of goes the same way with this. It gets back to the Mesh Fusion, same kind of idea. Now that actually helps us to look at HFSS, not a tool just for antennas, how it used to be, I don't know, 20 years ago, but now it's actually the tool for, I don't know, like for everything, right? So if you have some complicated scenarios when, have battleship somewhere or spaceship or something. So, and with this, Mesh Fusion, it's kind of the same thing, but on a different scale. It's bring the small objects together. So chips and PCBs and connectors and on a small scale. So
very
cool. It's just it's a little good improvements there.
Yeah, I get very excited by that sort of thing because not having to jump out of the package it makes a big difference, right? I mean, it's
that's for sure.
It's a game changer. Yeah, game changer.
Well, and to be honest, I mean, I'm thinking, I'm the person who likes some solution to be complete.
Yes.
Because usually, if you engineer and doing, let's say, several different things at once, right? So you design PCB, you're looking at some antenna on the PCB, and you're trying to do something, some predictions of the how the antenna gonna radiate in a specific environment or whatever. It's kind of important to be able to have one environment so you don't lose any I call it data, but any details of your scenario along the translation between the tools. That's the kind of, I don't know, to me it's the worst part, because trying to do something really cool and translation it gets in the way.
I hear you. I definitely have been there and done that. Spent a lot of time writing code to connect them. So yeah, it's a huge improvement. So what else should people know about?
Well, if we stay with the HFSS topic, I would say there's definitely improvement in the accuracy and the time of the memory,
the amount of memory used. Okay, yeah,
right. So there's several good comparison. I think it's available right now as a marketing material. So there's a comparison of the previous data, how long it was solving certain projects and everything. So now it's getting better, and I do like to see that keep improving.
It's really important.
Yes, especially in our world right now, when I don't know if it's not something done within 1 second, then it's too long.
we want our instant answers, right? Yes.
Right. Yeah. Like every time I on my phone and clicking the button and I don't see the result, I was like, oh my God.
What's wrong? I'm changing my carrier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we are now. So, but actually on that note as well, so there's more development happen already on the cloud. So Ansys Cloud, it's actually a big topic, and I'm pretty sure we won't be able to cover today a lot of it, but there's definitely improvements happen there.
Okay.
Lots of extra configuration has been added there, different environments and everything, like Microsoft Azure, for example, it has kind of some improvements there too. So the way how it's communicated with HFSS, the way how it's taking the data and runs the distribution. So, and solving in the cloud, when you have HFSS, or actually in this case for any HPC, high performance computing, that I think it's something which is going to be big really soon. It's already pretty big, but at the same time, when people realize that what you can do with that, because I mean, to me, every time I talk with the customers and they're like, "Oh, can you do this? Can I do this?" And the answer is always, "Yeah, that's the whole point." you can take so huge model, and drop it on a cloud and just not like forget about that, but just let it run and come back, and it's gonna be really, really quick, giving it results and everything. But so that's the point. So once people get accustomed to it and we'll have a habit of using cloud, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a big thing, because right now there's lots of development happening on that side. So
yeah, and I think the thing to think about with cloud is you might be able to do 80% of your job on your desktop machine, or the machine that you usually solve on, but what we're finding more and more is those times where, God, I just need to get this results faster, or I just need to run a few more cases, or a slightly bigger model that doesn't quite work. It's pretty straightforward to just solve it on the Ansys cloud.
Yep, that's true. It's true. So that's something also big I would consider, but I guess not as big as a Mesh Fusion.
Mesh Fusion could be huge. Yeah, it'll be huge. Yeah, someday you'll talk about, remember before we had Mesh Fusion?
Yeah, you'll be telling the stories how you had to run the mesh for a couple of days.
Exactly right. Okay. Well, cool.
So,
well, any parting thoughts before we wrap things up?
Well, yeah, I would probably also want to just make a little highlight. So now there's also in the HFSS 3D layout. So it's not necessarily HFSS as antenna solver or, for this matter, 3D EM solver. So in 3D layout, there's now support for encrypted 3D components. So, and because they used to just have 3D components, but encrypted was kind of next step, and everybody was waiting for it. Now it's there, so now you'll be able to use that. And yeah, that's one of the nice addition to all the features which we have so far.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah,
I think that as people, it's going to be a big game changer. Yeah.
Right. And so since we're migrating from HFSS to 3D layouts, and now, we in the PCB world, which is my favorite.
Yes.
So a couple highlights I want to mention about is wave as well, because technically, high frequency, it's still there, right? So still talking about high frequency. So one big thing happened there. There's a new, also beta at this point, but there's a new wizard. It's a DDR wizard.
Okay.
And so what's interesting about it, so we used to have the flow for DDR analysis, and we supported the 4, and I think there was different protocols for sure. But now it has been optimized and improved and put it in a way of the wizard. So I think that's actually, right now it's a better feature as well as a Mesh Fusion, but it seems like it's a good way to start chasing the protocols and in DDR design as well.
Okay.
So because the previous one, it worked, but it was taking a little bit too much of a steps, too many steps to take to actually do the DDR analysis. So that's why it was a little bit tricky. So, and now with the wizard, I tried it, and it seems pretty straightforward. I think there was about 3 or 4 wizard pages you have to go through. So that's something good, something great about the wave. And of course there's always the Granta material library integration. So now it's actually, and I'm pretty happy to see that, since we when did we acquire Granta? Was a couple years ago, maybe.
Yeah. I think it's been 2 or maybe 2.5 years now. Yeah.
So and now it's all over the place. Like it's in Cywave and it's HFSS. You can access that huge, I don't know how many thousands of different materials. And
well, ironically, or as you were saying that I kid you not, an email just popped up on my screen. Material selection software ? I'm a company I'm from such and such a company. I won't say who they are. I don't do simulation, but I'm very much interested in the material selection software called Ansys Granta Selector. So here's somebody that looks like a plastic injection molding house that's interested in looking at it. So it's everywhere. That's so wild.
It is.
It just popped up.
Yeah. So I would say this is all the different topics I want to touch about high frequency today. And just as the final word, I'm pretty happy, to see that how the Ansys as a solution kind of goes up and up in every release. And it's a lot of improvements all the time, a lot of different features, and it's catching up with the market as we go. So that's nice. So that's something to consider. And one best thing about it, we also not developing the tool and soft solution in a vertical direction, meaning like faster and less memory and less time and everything. But we also get development in the horizontal if we can say integration, meaning now we can bring up anything like PCB components, encrypted, not encrypted, antennas. You put everything together, you put flex PCB there, it's all together, and you still can work with that. Even if
It's such a good point. It's such a good point. One thing when you were saying that, it made me think, and those listening that have been maybe Ansys users for a long time, or it's just engineering software users for a long time, is we used to have a lot of discussion with our customers as to why am I paying maintenance, right? And they understood for the support, so they could call up and get someone like you. I'm not getting that question anymore. I think that there's such a big development team across the product line now that new and useful features that everybody can use, regardless of what physics you're doing, are coming out at such a high rate right now. Then, I don't think I've heard that question in 2 or 3 years. Yeah, that's a good sign, because you really think about a big change like this meshing capability, or like a wizard to really take something that was long and cumbersome to speed it up, or taking the Dell Cross acquisition, one of the technologies from Dell Cross, the ray tracing, and incorporating that in as well. I mean, these are all things that you're not paying anymore for, right? It's right. You get it with your maintenance. So it's a good point. Yeah, never thought about that. Well, I'm going to let you go and wrap things up. I really appreciate you taking the time, and you do have a webinar coming up. I don't know if it'll be before or after we put this out, but that's going to be on, what is it? Let me look and see. Oh, I don't think it's scheduled yet. Do we have a thing scheduled for HFSS?
So I think the webinar for HFSS has been already
happened. Okay.
Yes. So
okay.
I think it was yesterday, I think.
Okay.
But the one for SciWizard, SciWave, so that's supposed to be coming up in a couple months.
Okay, so your next one will be SciWave, and if you missed the one on high frequency products, do go to brighttalk.com as usual, and you can find it there and learn more about it. So I really appreciate, as always, your time. It's always good catching up. I'll mention this on the rest of the podcast, but I've got my first shot. I'm getting my second shot in 2 weeks, and I can't tell you how much I can't wait to go visit you guys in Colorado. So a couple more months of this.
Right now it's still pretty cold, so maybe
well, I think it's probably going to be June anyway, just till things calm down. So it'll be nice, and I'll enjoy the weather and get out of the heat here in Phoenix. So
we'll try to clean up the office then for you.
Yeah,
I don't know how many people have been there since.
Yeah, we're all. That's the thing I found when I came into my office this morning is I've just been piling stuff up on my desk for the last year, and that's my goal after we finish recording, is to clean that up. So always appreciate it, and please, everybody, do reach out to us if you're one of our customers. If you have any questions for Alex, our email is podcast@padtinc.com. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Eric.
Talk to you soon. All right. Well, thank you very much. And do check out our webinar on brighttalk.com as usual. Search for PADT, and you'll find this one and all the others that we've done in the past. You just need to listen to it at your own pace. For today's commercial, I want to talk more about Ansys customization with using PADT. In our weekly project review that we do as part of the consulting group, I realized that we have actually 4 projects going on right now, and there's 2 proposals out there. Maybe it depends on how you classify them. A few more that are getting close to being pretty likely to happen. We're doing some sort of tool for our customers that is written on top of or integrates multiple tools, including Ansys product or multiple Ansys products. Most are proprietary, so I can't give details about what we're doing. The one I want to talk about today, which is a great example, I can't be very specific about, but in broad terms, we're really excited about this project because we're taking a very complex, labor-intensive simulation process, building the models, meshing the models, running the models, and we're automating the whole thing that will allow customers to quickly conduct an advanced simulation on a different configuration of their product, including taking a look at different loading conditions. The user does not have to be an expert in the particular physics that we're doing this Ansys product around, or this vertical product around in Ansys physics. They just need to specify the configuration and the loading, and then press go. All the modeling, meshing, loading, parallel solve, and post-processing is done for them. The customer predicts that it will save them millions in testing over multiple years, and it'll be a big differentiator for them when compared to their customers, because they can talk to the customer, see what the customer wants, and then try it out and make sure it's going to work and not have a problem. that's cost savings doesn't include the cost of fixing a problem in the field that can be avoided because we did the simulation, and we wouldn't have done the simulation without this vertical app, or they wouldn't have done the simulation with this vertical app because it was just takes too long to build the model, and you have to have an expert to do it. Like I said, that's just one of the 4 we're doing right now. So if you have any ideas about how your company or customers could benefit from integration, customization, vertical applications, or added capabilities to your Ansys products, just reach out. info@padtinc.com, podcast@padtinc.com, www.padtinc.com. Just let us know. We love this stuff. It's our favorite thing to do. So reach out and let us help you be more productive and get these kind of gigantic step functions in productivity. So speaking of step functions, let's talk about Ansys financials. They gave their numbers yesterday, the 24th, for 2020, as well as the fourth quarter of 2020, and they were pretty dang good. Let's take a look. Before we go into the actual financial numbers, as part of that presentation that they put on the investor page, so if you go to the Ansys website and go to About, and then Investor Relations, I think is what it's called in the menu, you can look at these PowerPoints. Pretty good stuff. They get some interesting numbers that I think were worth sharing. So right now, they're over twice the size of their nearest competitor. They have 4,800 employees globally, 85 offices, 150 channel partners, of which PADT is proud to be one, an elite channel partner, actually. 24% of their senior leadership team. I really like this statistic, and they really worked at this. 24% of their leadership team is female, and 22% of their staff is female. Their employee turnover is really low, 6%. That's globally. So that's pretty impressive. Also, they gave some statistics on their startup program, which we've talked about on the podcast before. I think we mentioned a couple episodes ago that they passed the 1,000 startups threshold. So they're at 1,095 as of probably the end of last month. 161 of those companies have what we say is graduated. So they're a going concern that's making money, so they get to pay the full price. And that's in 54 countries. And it's been 80% growth in 2019 to 2020. Some pretty significant growth in that program. A related program is the university program. Most people don't realize this, but there's 2,750 schools in 50 countries that use Ansys to either teach or do research. And this number surprised me. There's over 615 now, campus-wide solutions. So that's where they just say, give us as much as you can. Here's the dollar amount. And a new program that we've talked about on the podcast is Ansys sponsoring student teams. So each local office is asked to do that. And they've sponsored over 500 kids, maybe not so kids with the graduate students, but team events like the cars and the autonomous vehicles or droids, robots, whatever the team is. They've sponsored over 500 of those. So pretty impressive investment in universities that is paying off. So all that being said, some numbers that are still true. They're number one in simulation. No one, of course, they're twice as big as the nearest competitor. Also, their customer satisfaction rate has stayed really high. It's at 89%. That's a really good number. And consistently, from a business standpoint, they're only focused on simulation. And if you look at the competitors, that's not true. And it's one of the reasons why they continue to grow, in my humble opinion. So before we get into last year's numbers, they did share what they see for future growth. And one of the things they did is a market study to look at what's the total addressable market space for simulation. So currently they estimate the simulation market at, and these are using people who do such things, using their reports, $6.6 billion for simulation. So that's the worldwide spend on simulation in a year. They think it will triple in the next 7 to 10 years to either 15.8 on their low estimate to 20.6 billion in their high estimate. That includes organic growth in the existing core foundation areas, the stuff we usually talk about in this podcast. And then it's also faster growth in high growth areas. They expect to see that grow even faster. Things like digital twin, additive manufacturing simulation, tools like Ansys Discovery, based tools for design engineers. They expect to see that part of the market grow actually faster. And then they expect even bigger growth in what they call new additional or new markets that are adjacent to where they are right now. And this will be new products or new tools that allow them well, it's not just Ansys, but to allow the industry to grow, right? So lots of potential for growth. And when you see the numbers, you can see they've grown a lot, but they've got even more room. So getting right into it, for the fourth quarter, their revenue was $627.8 million, and that was a record. And they did $259.7 million in profit. So that's an unusually high profit ratio. It's 51.6%. So over half. They kept over half of the money they took in. So a lot of high margin business there in Q4. In 2019, that number was 492 versus 627, and the profit was 194.7 million. So it's a year over year for the fourth quarter, a 27% increase in revenue and a 33% increase in profit. So nicely done for Q4, and PADT did contribute to that. We had a great Q4. We're big, but we're not that big. So, but we helped move the needle with a lot of other people having a good Q4. So for 2020, the total year, they reached the 1.696 billion. So we'll just say $1.7 billion in revenue, with over $500 million in profit, 584 million. So that's for the year a 43% margin. Compared to 1.5 billion in revenue last year, 2019, and a $565 million profit. So that had a higher profit margin because the profit was similar, but the revenue was less. So 45% versus 43% profit margin. So year over year, profit was up 11%. Or excuse me, revenue was up 11%, and profit was up only 3%. And I think what we're seeing in that reduced profit is definitely the expenses of COVID and delays in customers purchasing and things like that. In the middle of the year. So, but a strong Q4 was making up for that. What they call the annual contract value, that's really the amount of software people buy, was 1.6 billion versus 1.4 billion last year, and that's a 9% growth if you adjust for currency changes, which can make some big differences in the actual dollars in the bank. Taking a look at the balance sheet, speaking of the bank, how much do they have cash sitting in a vault somewhere, or a digital whatever? At the end of 2020, it was $913 million, and that's versus $872 million at the end of 2019. So we often talk about, for acquisitions, do they have enough, cash on hand to do a down payment and then finance the rest? And yeah, $913 million is a lot of cash on hand. Their long-term debt, speaking of that, which is what they generally have incurred in order to buy companies. Remember, they bought 2 in 2020. It did go up from 423.5 million to 798 million for those acquisitions, probably. If you do that math, that's $798 million in debt, and it is 1.3 times this year's profit. So, they're not taking on a huge amount of debt. If they want to pay it off over 10 years, they don't have to really dig too much into their profit. It's also only 87% of the cash on hand. So they haven't borrowed more than they have sitting in the bank. So very conservative. Don't know we'll talk about Wall Street. I don't understand what the hell they're doing. But from my standpoint as a small business owner, I mean, these are fantastic numbers. They're very conservative, really poised for continued growth through investing internally and externally. So where did the revenue come from? This is something I always care about. 1.68 billion which is 40. That's the total amount of revenue, 1.68 billion. 46% was software licenses, and 54% was maintenance and services. That's pretty robust considering a major economic slowdown. What it shows, I think, is that companies, and we certainly saw this with our customer base, companies small and large are still investing in simulation. They're taking a little bit longer to do it, and they're not spending as much overall. So they're going with people they know that can return value on that investment. So those small and large companies are investing in simulation because it pays off. As we all, if you listen to this podcast, you know that, and they seem to be doing it with Ansys more than other products. So really great, fantastic. Kudos to everybody in the One Ansys world, from the channel partners that are new to the Ansys world to the CEO Ajay, who's just done a fantastic job steering the ship through some very stormy waters in 2020 and doing quite well. So the Wall Street, I don't understand them. So a week before the release of this info, the stock hit an all-time high, an amazing price of $413.19. That's massive, right? There's 85.88 million shares out there, according to Yahoo Finance. So that puts their market cap on that day at $35.5 billion. So that's 35 and a half unicorns running around in one company. Pretty damn impressive. Then it went down. And today it's still going down a little bit. It seems I don't know if this is people cashing in, if it's the estimates for next quarter aren't as high as they want. I don't understand. I have no idea what they're doing. Buying stocks is not about what the company's doing. It's about what you think other people think the company's doing, or whether the people think you think that the company is doing. It's confusing. So since that 413.19 price, it's dropped 16%. When I wrote the numbers down, and that's and they're actually down year to date 5%. Since January 1, so some sort of correction taking place there. The market in general is down. Tech stocks are down today, so maybe it's part of that as well. I will just continue to claim that I don't understand investing. I don't do it well myself personally, and I don't understand the Ansys stock price. If you look at those financials, it's just outstanding numbers, and we like it as users because it means that there's plenty of money to add new tools into the Ansys family, as well as money to make the tools we got even better and make support even better and make the Learning Hub even better. So it's all good stuff for us. Before we sum things up, that's what I got for financials and stock. I did want to mention some events that are coming up for PADT. We have our next Ansys update is going to be Mechanical 2020 R1, and that's going to be it's already March 2nd at 11 o'clock. So do check that out. That's going to be online. And then if you are in Arizona, or if you care about photonics, we are a bronze sponsor of the Arizona Photonics Day. This is usually a big in-person event down in Tucson. Tucson's one of the two leading centers for optics and photonics in the U.S., Rochester being the other one. And it's a really great event. There's a little bit of talk about simulation, but it's a very general conference on optics and what's going on in the world of optics and photonics. Ansys has made acquisitions in that space, so we're doing more and more with that. And I said we're a sponsor this year, and that is on March 3rd and 5th through the 5th, from 7 to basically 1 o'clock every day. So if you can, if you want to, and just check out our website, pdtinc.com/events, and you can register for that. It's very inexpensive, done through the Tech Council. Then we've got 2 automotive-related events on the 11th. The first one is at 10:30 in the morning, and it's the state of additive in the automotive industry. So we're really going to be looking at additive manufacturing and how it impacts the automotive industry. That's with our partners at Stratasys, and we'll be talking about simulation a little bit as part of that. And then we're going to do a panel discussion about that topic. Then at 1 p.m. on that same day, we're going to be doing a simulation-focused discussion called Simulating the Future of Automotive Industry. And it's part of this PADT focus on automotive on the 11th. And I recommend if you're in the automotive space or you care about the automotive space, you attend all three of those. The panel discussion will be great, as will the discussion about Ansys simulation in automotive and taking a look at the 3D printing in automotive. On the Ansys side, we talk about a lot of the podcast. We do a lot of sensor and virtual testing, virtual prototyping in order to train AI. There's just so much that we can do to help automotive, composites, metal forming, you name it, batteries for the electrification, electric motors, go on and on. So do check that out if you care about those things. And I will also put a plug in for Ansys Simulation World in 2021. That is going to be on April 20th and 21st. It's the big, gigantic worldwide user conference that's virtual. And again, check that out on padtinc.com/events. You can, at the bottom of the page, you can register for that event as well. So that's pretty much it I've got for today. I want to thank everybody before we wrap up. Just to make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as go to padtinc.com/opt-in and subscribe to our newsletter. Spread the word. If you do subscribe to our newsletter or follow some of us on social media, you know that kind of a cool thing we're doing, and we hope you guys, listeners, take part in it, that I'll mention, is we're writing a novella. Short novel. It's very silly. It's not very well written, but it's about an engineer who's a PhD in CFD, and there's time travel involved, a few Monty Python jokes. I mean, we're only in the first chapter, and making fun of salespeople. So we hope it's serialized. Every month we'll come out with a new chapter or two, and we hope you take the time to read it as we go along or when it's all done, and that's going to be on our blog. So spread the word on that as well. As always, don't hesitate to reach out, and we hope to share more exciting information in our next podcast. Thanks. Thank you for joining us for the All Things Ansys podcast, episode 82. As a reminder, this podcast is not affiliated in any way with Ansys Inc., and the opinions expressed are those of the people on the show only and not of their current or former employers. For more information, visit www.padtinc.com/blog, and please share your thoughts and questions through an email to podcast@padtinc.com.